Okay, it's April 20th today. Happy 420 to anybody celebrating. Today, I'm gonna get started on my backyard Yamadori season. I'm tentatively calling it Backyard Adori, but I don't know if that sounds silly or what. Anyways, this is an Ohio Buckeye tree. I don't have any of these. I got permission from the landlord to take this one out because there's a few others growing on the side of the house and out front. So yeah, it's a little bit late probably to be pulling it out of the ground. I should have done it right before these leaves opened up, but it's one of the first trees to open its leaves. Like some of these Norway maples that are in the ground are just opening up now, but all my potted trees, have been fairly slow to open up compared to this one anyways. Okay, so this should be the easy part really. All I'm gonna do is get a shovel in the ground and pull out the whole root system, and then I'll bring it over to the table and try to I'll do some root pruning over there. It's going to be bare rooted and yeah, put it in a new pot with proper bonsai soil. So, this cuts right through some of the roots. So yep, that loosened it up just enough to get out of there. Now, yeah, there's really not a lot of roots at all in there. I don't know quite what's going on there actually. A bit strange, but I'll get it over to the potting table and put it in a pot and see what happens. Okay, so for all my collected trees this year, my backyard Adori trees, I'm just using these, thin plastic nursery containers. All of my, so I'll be able to remember next year what I collected this year and what's older, right? So anything in these flimsy containers is new this year. Next year I can put them into better containers, and all of my trees I've already repotted are already and will all be in good plastic containers, maybe a few clay ones here and there. So anyways, I've been looking at this tree a little bit, and I was expecting a better root system on it because it's a fairly tall tree already. But there wasn't much going on down there. I might have done a little bit of damage with the shovel, but I don't know, it looks like some of these were kind of already dead. Yeah, I probably did rip some out here, but oh well. So I'm gonna make a flush cut down here. That can be the base of the trunk, the start of the root system. I'm not gonna cut any of these roots. I'm just going to let it grow as well as it can this year and hope for the best. But also, because the root system is so small, I can't really let all of this growth keep going because it's too much for the root system to handle. So I'll make it a much smaller tree for now anyways, and I'll cut it back to this node. These leaves are already coming out. They're actually a little bit earlier in the budding out stage, so it's actually better if I just leave it right there. Yeah, so that's what it's gonna be. And then I'm just gonna cut it here. That was pretty soft. And if something grows off of this, that'll be, you know, that would be fine. So I'll just leave everything the way it is right now and really hope that something grows out of here. If the top dies off for some reason, there's another bud here that I can cut back to in the future. So yeah, I'll kind of plant it a little bit off to the one side. And you know, you could see that the roots, or the tips of some of these roots, already have, you know, white on them, which means they're actively growing, which means it's just a tiny little bit too late to do this with, you know, the most minimal risk. But I think I caught it kind of just in time to be not too bad. Definitely not perfect timing, but not terrible either. I don't really need to use the stick to get this soil worked in, because there wasn't a lot of roots in there to begin with. I probably shouldn't push the soil down so hard. I've already got a crack in this pot, and it's brand new. Okay, so there it is. It's potted pretty far over into the one corner of the pot, but as you saw, the root system was pretty one-sided, so I kind of had to do that. I guess I'll plant this as a cutting. I think I'll take this one and put it in my indoor cutting container that I can keep really humid and lit up all the time at a steady temperature. And then some of these leaves I can kind of pinch off to minimize, you know, water loss, water needs. I'll take this one too. Yeah, so that's Ohio Buckeye 1. And if any of these cuttings survive, I can give them a number later. But this is kind of my cuttings container. I have a large Norway maple over here that I need to repot soon, but everything else is cuttings. And I actually realized today, it looks like this one, which was a cutting off the quince tree I took like, I don't know, last September or October, you know, really weird time of year. I thought it was dead for sure, but there's actually 2 buds that are greening up now, so that's really cool. This is the top of that Norway that I cut off. This was another one of the quince that looks like it died. These are some of the, what's it called? The evergreen spindle that I planted when I cut it not too long ago. Anyways, I'm gonna put this one put it over here. This can be my new cuttings area. And I don't use, rooting hormone or anything in this big container. I just kind of plant them and let what happens happens. Haven't shown it anywhere else yet, but my sugar maple buds are really starting to get quite large. My raspberry in a pot is growing. The main central one died off. I can cut that, but everything else looks good. Haven't done my repotting video yet today, but I really want to do this spruce next. It's looking real close. Oops. Yeah, I'll go through all that later. But anyways, that's all looking good. Next, I think I'll just take a couple of these really small maples, the ones with lots of movement, while I'm over here. And then I'm gonna go to the side of the house and grab some really nice Japanese quince. It's like a flowering quince. Maybe it's not Japanese, but it's a flowering quince anyways. Should be really interesting. Yeah, I'll just grab these little maples off camera and then show you them potted up afterwards. Okay, well there's that Buckeye, and here's the first Norway maple I collected. Nice, weird, twisty one. Well, not weird actually, but it's almost like a perfect, wired S shape, but it just happened all on its own. And unfortunately, there is some bad news. I had some casualties over the last month or so. This was my last little willow leaf ficus cutting that was living. You can see there was roots on it at one point, but it just, never really took off. These are my 2 crown of thorns cuttings, the large ones. I've had these for years actually, and I repotted them in that crown of thorns video, I don't know, a few months ago, in the fall maybe, and they just, never really recovered after that. I should have let them gain vigor back in their old pots before repotting them. They had suffered from some bug issues over the winter. Yeah, these were the ones that had those weird, kind of mutant flowers on them that were like, 2 flowers growing out of 1 flower. It was pretty strange, but kind of cool. Anyways, now I get to use these pots for other things, so that's a silver lining in the death of these cuttings. See you later, little guys. Okay, I grabbed one more Norway maple here. Got some interesting movement, even more down below the soil line, but not a lot of roots, so planted it deep. Just gonna let it grow really thick and then prune it back in the future. Yeah, same with that one. There's a bunch of other trees, Norway maples in the yard that I might grab eventually, but they're not really my priority right now. Next, what I want to do is just take a stroll towards the front or the side yard and just check out all the different, more flowers and other native plants that we have around the yard. So, I forget what all of these things are called, but these things are just everywhere. It's like I forget, a night lily or something like that. I don't know. These are tulips, and actually I just noticed we have our first bulbs appearing. That's awesome. There's a whole bunch of tulips around the yard, different varieties, colors. Big hydrangea has a lot of growth coming out. They look like big heads of lettuce or something. More tulips there. Everything over there is doing well, but I've shown everything in the backyard quite a bit. There's that fennel I cut back earlier. Don't think it's growing up yet. Over here is the rosemary, but I don't think that's coming either. A couple things over here. This might be a leek that's coming up already, which is crazy. A couple of those tree of hell or tree of heaven, depending on how you think of the smell that comes off of them. To me, it kind of smells like Fritos or something, which is nice at first, but after a while it's a bit much. A couple other things. The smaller grapevines over here that have, you know, dark purple berries. They're doing pretty well. We got a bunch of small tulips coming out first. These yellow ones. They're a smaller variety and they come out early. I just love the variety of plants out here. I'm not even gonna try naming them all, but there's a whole bunch of rhubarb that's been coming up. This one is, I forget what it's called, something else. But these huge lumps of rhubarb all coming up. Fields of this little plant, I forget what that's called. More rhubarb. This one is the, what is that? Thyme? Creeping thyme, maybe that one is. I forget what these things are, but they're really cool. They look like pineapples or something. Crazy looking. And this little tulip over here. The only one of that variety that's out so far. There's the Ohio Buckeye that's in the side here. This is the Asparagus. There's one huge one coming up. It's like almost as thick as my index finger. Crazy. Hopefully we'll be able to, there's another one coming out here too. Hopefully we'll be able to harvest a good amount this year, and then let the rest mature. So that it produces even better next year. Over here is this pear tree. I learned recently that at some point the previous owners, not the current owners, my landlords, they, pruned this tree in an espalier fashion, and each layer was actually a different type of pear. They had grafted. You can see there's like, a major graft point there, I think, and yeah, those are all graft points. And then, this one died off, and so did this one here, because they were right under the dryer exhaust there. But there's other things coming out. I think this is probably the base, like the rootstock. But yeah, so like I've got one solid arm, two of different pear types, and then everything up here is the Douglas pear, because it's exactly the same as the one in the backyard. So there's just tons and tons of flowers on this thing. It grew like crazy last year. I'm gonna air layer a bunch of these and then cut the rest of them back, because I really want to try and push some vigor down into these ones, and then I'll keep trying to kind of espalier these out that way, but I don't think it's gonna really work around the dryer vent. But you know, there's a nice fruiting spur here, and then there's a huge, almost trunk-like tree. So I think I'm gonna keep that because that's the second variety. So is that spur, and then everything up here, I can prune out some of these, air layer them, and yeah, just try and focus growth to all three different pear types a little bit. Okay, I forget what this little thing is, but it's got little flowers coming out already. It's pretty nice. So I was gonna come over here. I want to try and grow this thing as a bonsai. I forget what it is, but it's got nice yellow flowers on it. It's got these huge thorns. You know, it almost grows very similar to a rose, but it becomes quite interesting when it matures. You know, so you know, I got to prune that back a lot anyways, so I'll try and propagate that in this bush. The two huge plum trees out on the side of the house here, they're gonna burst open any moment now. Just tons and tons of buds everywhere. Again, gonna try and propagate through air layering and cuttings. And out here, this is the final thing I want to show. So I'm not even gonna get to the front part of the yard yet. There's tons of stuff over there too. This is that huge flowering quince bush with nice red flowers I've showed in a few previous videos. It's just beautiful, and I was gonna try and, you know, take cuttings this year, and you know, I need to prune the heck out of that. It's so overgrown, it can really be thinned out. But yeah, I actually didn't realize, but it's growing a bunch of other plants through suckers. The landlord was telling me, you know, this tree shoots the roots out sideways, and then out of those roots pops out these suckers. So there's a whole bunch of these out here actually, really good sizes. I'm gonna take this one for sure, the big one, plant it as a larger tree. And then there's one over here that's quite interesting. You know, I can cut it off there and have it as a, you know, double trunk tree that splits really far down. And then some other, whole bunch of ones. Actually, that base is really thick there. Someone pruned that previously, so I can take that one, grow it, you know, cut it really far down, and then grow it as a single trunk tree with lots of movement at the bottom. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. I need to mix up a whole bunch of soil because I want to use fresh new soil for all of these. I really like this plant, and I want to make sure all these survive because, you know, the flowers are beautiful, and I think it develops a pretty cool kind of smooth trunk as it matures. I don't know if you can kind of see in there. It's fairly smooth, but you know, I'm sure over time it'll get even more gnarled up. I think coming out of the trunk at the very bottom there, I can see it gets kind of like a scaly, you know, warty type bark. Anyways, gonna go mix up that soil, and then I'll pop these out of the ground, put them in some water, and then bring them over to the table so I can root prune them and plant them up properly. Okay, so before I remove all these, I think I'm going to prune them first. I don't want them all, you know, I don't want the whole length of the thing. So I think this one, there's a nice strong bud up here. You can cut it back to there. And then I've got a container of water over there I'll put all the cuttings and the plants into. And you know, some of these I'll probably just be able to kind of pull out of the ground with my fingers. This one goes kind of deep, so I'll get the shovel in there. try and get the shovel a little farther away from the plant this time. Don't want to mess up any of the roots. That taproot's pretty far down there. There it goes, along with a bunch of other things. Oh wow. That's not a good start. I took everything off. There's no roots left. That taproot went so far down. Yeah, okay, well, I'll be careful with the other ones. Dig them out a little better. That was a good little practice one. It's not one of the better ones anyways. So, at least there's that. Get a little bit deeper for this one because this is one of the ones I really like. I think this all might be one plant actually, this whole thing. I don't know if there's even going to be a root system in any of these because they grow, from suckers in the root system, but we'll see. Got a whole bunch of ants coming out of this one. No. So I shouldn't have left that out all winter, huh? Well. Yeah, this is just like part of a root from the main tree that just grows up as its own plant. Crazy. Alright, well at least there's some roots on that one. A little bit. Okay. I'm gonna head back to the repotting table and regroup after breaking my shovel. Pretty sad about that one. Had this baby for a while. Okay, heading back now. So I've got everything right here, and I've got a really deep pot prepared with big chunks of lava rock in the large holes there. And I'm gonna pot up this big one first. And now the bad thing about it is that it's so long until there's any roots, so I've got to plant it really deep. And you know, the good part about that is that there's actually a lot of movement here in this trunk, and you can kind of see it there. It's a bit weird, but let's see what happens. So can you even see anything with that sun up there? Maybe a bad angle. Anyways, so yeah, I'm gonna have to plant it. There is a root up here, but I don't think I'll be able to fit that in the pot. This is going to be the top of the root plane right there. And I'm going to use everything all the way down to here, even though I damaged this part. Maybe I can kind of give it a little bit of a better cut right there at least. And then I'm going to chop it off below that last root. And that's how I'm going to plant it. And then I'm going to hope that this one lives because it's a pretty cool plant. Yeah, so this is going to take a lot of my newly mixed soil, but I think it'll be worth it. Maybe I will be able to get this root under something, some moss or something at least, because I can get this fairly deep in there. So that's kind of cool. I'll plant it at an angle like this, and then just dump a whole bunch of soil in there. Wow, it's almost everything that I mixed up. I think that's good for now because I want to do one other repotting today, and I don't have any of my organic mix left, so I'm gonna have to grab some more of that tomorrow. But I think actually I can use reused soil at the top here. I'm just gonna, get the soil as high as I can in this pot and get this little tiny root under some soil. Yeah, so I'll do that off camera and then I'll be right back. Okay, well, that's what I was able to collect today. I actually think this one is looking really cool. Most of the movement in the trunk is, below the soil surface. I just really need strong roots to grow before I can cut off, the top ones and accentuate the movement in it. But I think it's a pretty good start. This is pretty cool. Eventually the main, trunk line might be something like that. Would be kind of cool. I don't know. Anyways, I put all the cuttings in here. Everything else was just cuttings. This was the only one that actually had any roots on it. Norway maple, pretty cool shape. Ohio Buckeye. Yeah, I think these ones should do well this year. I have 3 of these little like propagating chamber type pots. This one has these flowering quince in it. Another one has the normal quince, the fruiting quince, and the other one has I forget. Oh, it has from the grapevine. Yeah, so I've got 3 of those. I need to go buy some more of those pots so I can do the same with, the pear, the apricot, persimmon, the eastern redbud, a few other things. Yeah, I want to propagate a whole bunch of stuff this year. So I'm keeping all these propagating pots in that little stone container, which stays dark and cool. And yeah, that's it for my first round of backyard Yamadori. As always, thanks for watching and catch you next time. Cheers.